So this video is not necessarily intended to be controversial, but inevitably it will be. I think helicopters are easier to fly than airplanes.
It's like autopilot, dude.
How do you fly a helicopter? Well, I'm going to show you. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently as I am a helicopter pilot and I've been going through my commercial fixed wing training as well. I think I've got about 65 hours of fixed wing time, so airplane time, at this point. And since I have flown both, I actually think that helicopters are easier to fly. Now, I'll explain myself because I want to make this super clear, the argument I'm trying to make. But helicopters are very difficult to learn initially. Like, how to hover, how to take off, how to make an approach, and how to cruise straight and level. That is all very challenging initially to learn. But once you get the hang of it, once you have maybe 20, 30, 40 hours of helicopter experience and you've been soloing, I think your ability to control the helicopter becomes far more with the helicopter than it does in the airplane. Now, an airplane is just easier initially to pick up. It's easy to taxi. It's easy to take off. It's extremely easy to cruise in flight. But when it comes to landing and just the general maneuverability of an airplane, you do not have the same capabilities as you do in the helicopter. Once you understand how the helicopter works, it's way easier to fly because you can do anything you need to with it and it's gonna go right along with you. Like a pickup or a set down or a takeoff, or if you're flying in really windy conditions, it moves the way you want it to move and you can control it. You can control every detail. You can control every yaw movement. You can control every up and down movement. You can control every lateral movement. You have 100% control of where it is in space versus an airplane where it's kind of on its roll. Like, think about an approach in an airplane. It's kind of doing its thing. You're making small little inputs, but it's kind of doing its thing. In the helicopter, you are controlling every single aspect of it. I think the ability to control every aspect of flight makes it easier. The main thing that sparked this debate is, as a helicopter instructor, as a helicopter pilot during the start of my career, I was like, not that good, pretty bad. But once I got around like 40 hours or more, like, I've made mistakes, but all of my flying has been pretty good. I haven't really ever made big flight mistakes. Like, I've made like aeronautical decision making mistakes, but my actual skills of flying, I've always been able to control the aircraft without a problem pretty much. Unlike in the airplanes, I still see instructors or people, commercial pilots with thousands of hours, they still make mistakes on landings. Their takeoffs are probably fine, their cruise is fine, but like airplane pilots and airplane instructors, even once they have thousands of hours, they're still at the mercy of the airplane and they can't control that thing all the way to the ground. You can get real good at it, but like a gust of wind comes in on an approach, like right as you're about to flare or set down, even the best fixed wing pilot can't necessarily control that. Unlike in a helicopter, pretty much your entire time flying, you can control it. Even if there's really gusty winds, you have complete control, which means I think it's easier. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna call some of my pilot friends that have flown both helicopters and airplanes, and we're gonna see what they think and get some more opinions. Yo, dude, I'm filming a video. Got a question for you. Are airplanes or helicopters easier to fly?
I would say airplanes.
Okay, why?
Because you have less going on. If they're more stable, right? And there's less inputs that are needed to keep it stable, I guess. I guess that would be it. Like, that's really the main thing, right? Like, with an airplane, you can trim out an airplane and then kick back, and without an autopilot, you really don't have to do anything.
Okay.
If it's trimmed perfect. With a helicopter, you can't do that.
Right. So, yes, it's more flying. Okay, so when let's say if you're in really windy conditions, which is easier to fly?
For landing, I'd rather be in a helicopter.
Why?
Because you are not you're not bound to runways. You can land into the wind at any time. And choose your direction for landing.
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Hey, dude, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I am filming a video, and I was wondering if I could ask you a question.
Sure.
Sure. All right. Which are easier to fly, airplanes or helicopters?
Ooh. I would say airplanes only because you can essentially let go of the controls after you get it kind of stable, and you can kind of you're not constantly like changing. So obviously with a helicopter, when you make a change with the cyclic or collective, you're usually making other changes with the pedals or vice versa. With an airplane, once you get it up in the air, it's just kind of like it wants to fly. Rather, the helicopter, you're kind of like forcing it to fly.
No, that's exactly it. All right, so then let me ask you this. In really windy conditions, which would you rather be in, an airplane or a helicopter?
So that's a hard one because I think it sucks either way. I think in terms of landing, the crosswind, correction for an airplane, in my opinion, and experiencing it was very difficult and very scary. Whereas like in a helicopter, it feels very unstable, but at the same time, like you're in full control, so you can kind of point your nose into the wind and set it down. But I think if we're talking about just flying through the air, I would say airplane.
You'd rather be in an airplane?
In terms of landing, I would say probably helicopter.
Yeah.
What is easier to fly, an airplane or a helicopter?
I would say an airplane, but I think I'm a little biased. But yeah, if I had to pick, I'd say airplane.
Okay, are there any conditions where you would say a helicopter is easier to fly than an airplane?
I would say, I think the reason the helicopter is easier to fly, or the times it's easier to fly, is like because it's designed to have your hands on the controls at all times. It seems like often they're laid out in ways that make it so you can, right? Like little things like having a frequency swap button, or even like the governor itself makes it easy so I can have my hands on the controls all the time. But also I feel like that's also the disadvantage of the helicopter, is like you have to be on the controls all the time. You never can really truly get it perfectly into trim. But if I could pick, I don't know, if a condition where a helicopter is easier, I mean, maybe it's with approaches. I mean, just in the sense of, with a helicopter, you have the option of going slow and keeping it tight. And sometimes with airplanes, you really gotta, so like landing in a field or something, in a normal condition, a helicopter kind of wins most of the time.
All right, so those are a couple of my friends and other pilots. All of those pilots that I called and you heard from fly both helicopters and airplanes, so it's kind of interesting to get their perspective. But because they have the perspective of flying both, it's really interesting to see. And I think the consensus that I heard from them is most people think airplanes are just in general easier to fly, which I think is true. I think when you are in certain circumstances, having the full control of the helicopter is more preferable and maybe easier to fly, easier depending on the way you define it, but I think you definitely have more control and it's more favorable, especially on the approach phase when coming into land, because you do have that full control. You can maneuver into the wind and you can come in on whatever angle you want. Now, the real testament to this is I am going to post a poll on my channel right after this video comes out, and we're gonna ask what you guys think. So you can write your answer down in the comments below, the reason why you think airplanes or helicopters are easier to fly, or if you completely disagree and just think airplanes are easier to fly. Let me know down in the comments below. Go choose an answer on the poll and we'll see who wins. I'll make a follow-up video after this to see what people said. If you found yourself enjoying this video, smash the like button. If you completely disagree with what I said, I want to hear about it down in the comments below, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.